Okay, hello. Uh, Hi guys. Thanks for joining me tonight. It's been it's so crazy. There's always like 4 or 5 people watching, and then when they see me, they all just like click away. Like, am I like hideously ugly or something? I don't understand why that happens. Is the video quality not up to? This is so odd. Um, Anyways, lots of cool stuff has happened. Some of you guys have inquired about my health. It's rocky, but and this is actually an interesting ayahuasca story. Maybe 2 years ago, I was in the jungle and I drank ayahuasca, and I had just started to kind of feel bad, and so I was, asking for something that I could use because I had had all these visions that were very chaotic and sort of cartoony, and nothing that I really felt was like coherent. And so Pachamama said, "I'll show you something you can use." And she opened up my stomach, and I could see all these tiny little bugs inside, little yellow. They were all flitting around, and she said, "It's really really bad. This parasite infection. It's bad enough it could kill you, which is rare, but it could kill you. So go into the jungle and I'll show you which plant to eat to kill them." And at that stage in the game, I didn't necessarily have the trust that would be required to just go into the jungle and eat some random plant. So, so I didn't do it. And I didn't really pursue any kind of parasite cleanse, or, like I didn't take it very seriously. And so the doctor feels that the most likely scenario is that I have parasitical amoeba infection, also um, bacteria infection on the stomach, uh, what is it, gastritis, and maybe other problems. But we're going to start with like 20 days of inflammation treatment and parasites. And I was really excited yesterday because I felt a lot better, but today I felt worse than ever. And it's possible that that's good because sometimes when you kill off parasites, there's a Herxheimer reaction, I think it's called, where when the bugs die, you get really sick. So, kind of a rough day. But the day before yesterday was really cool. We went to the lagoon and paddled around with a guide. Usually we just get the canoe and go without a guide. But my mother-in-law was with us, so the guide came this time, and we saw a boa and a caiman, and it's a really incredible experience to float around in this lagoon. Oh, and the giant fish, they're called pirakuru or paiche, and they are supposedly they've been in these waters for hundreds of millions of years unchanged. Um, uh, I was walking around actually in this area the other day, looking at these giant palms and thinking, it's not just that it looks like you walk onto the set of Jurassic Park, or well, not Jurassic Park, but like literally walk back into the Precambrian age or whatever. The way the plants look, and it dawned on me that it doesn't just look that way; it is that way. There's things don't really have to evolve here so much. It's sort of like Groundhog Day with the weather, because we're right on the equator, and so it's just the same all the time. And I think that has probably contributed to the evolutionary stability. And we have so many plants that haven't changed, and of course, everything containing its contradiction, as is the case. There's also all this biodiversity. I knew that Ecuador was a very biodiverse place, but I just discovered the other day that per kilometer, it's the most biodiverse place in the world. And if you follow my Instagram or Facebook, you see I'm always posting. In fact, the butterfly on the thumbnail for this video. If you look closely, you'll see the little triangles where you can see the leaves through the moth, and you don't really get an idea of its size. The thing was huge, but it had those like translucent windows where you can see the plant through the moth. There's just something crazy every single day, and so. Uh, we the guy had mentioned these marmoset monkeys or marmot monkeys. I'm not really sure exactly what the name is, but I've not seen them the entire time we've been here. And this guy mentioned them, and we didn't see them. But then we went to have lunch, and they were all in the trees around us all of a sudden. So that was interesting, you know. I mean, I've noticed that quite a few times that someone will mention something and then it will appear for the first time. It happened the day I got bitten by a bullet ant a little while back. So I feel like I got off track there. We were talking about parasites, and yeah, I mean, I just thought it was interesting that ayahuasca did tell me you have this terrible parasitic infection, and on top of that, um, I've experienced on numerous occasions where it's as if ayahuasca can manipulate your biological functions in order to achieve some end, or even to manipulate you into cooperating. Um, and I've already made videos telling those stories, but what I'm referencing here is that right after this experience where ayahuasca told me that I had this parasitical infection, I went to drink ayahuasca again like a week later, and the shaman had prepared this big bowl of or bucket full of guayusa tea, and we were supposed to drink it and vomit and drink it and vomit and drink it and vomit. Um, and so I would drink and drink and drink and drink, but I kept just running to the toilet. And it took me hours to figure it out. But suddenly I remembered Pachamama saying, I can flush them out, but I can't kill the eggs. In other words, you're going to have to do other stuff in order to get rid of this. So here we are a year later, 2 years later, and I'm, you know, been very, very sick, and likely because Pachamama was telling the truth, which is always the case. By the way, I just did an interview with Carlos Tanner today from the Ayahuasca Foundation, and it was really, really good. I'm really, really glad that I did that. I'm not going to do them so much on this channel anymore. I've been meaning to launch the other ones so that I can monetize it. And also the algorithm, I'll get more views probably. So I'll really appreciate your support there, moving over to the other channel with me, so that we can try to. I've got a lot of big plans, you guys, but without funding, I can't do any of it. And I'm going to tell you guys about those plans in a minute because I'm determined to make them happen. Today I finally made a connection with a guy that knows the Warani deep in the jungle. And in case you're someone that doesn't follow my channel, I didn't wrap up the Carlos Tanner thing. It was a really great interview. Definitely check it out. I'll post it in the next couple of days. So there's that, and then the Warani. So we went and had tea and fruit with a neighbor, and he knows a guy that has known the Warani deep in the jungle for a long, long time. And so it's very, very good to have a connection that actually knows them, that they trust. It's a completely different situation than going just as strictly as a tourist with a guide. So this is, it's really the thing that I've been looking for. And he said that he has access to a more or less uncontacted tribe, the Wami Warani, which are a little bit deeper in the jungle and a lot more dangerous. So it's not clear whether that would be on the agenda or not. But my plan is to try to recruit some of you guys, possibly, or even I'm going to try to reach out to Dakota Wint, because I feel like this could be something he might be interested in, and a collaboration with somebody with a much larger audience would do me a lot of good. And also, we're trying to bring revenue into these communities. So I'm really going to try to see if I can't get him on board or somebody like that. And I want to extend the invitation to you, if there's anybody out there watching, if this sounds interesting to the what the fuck just happened? The opportunity is there to go into the jungle and meet the Warani. I personally want to learn the language, but also, I'd like to tie this in with the story that some of you guys have been following on this channel, and explain why I made the reference to God at all in the title and in the description. And it's just something I've been asked a few times in various ways. I've been accused of being religious and having a doctrine even. Um, so, I do not believe that the universe is a blind, dead, static, random bunch of probabilities. I say that all the time. But I don't really believe in God either, because I think if you follow this consciousness to its all the way back to the source, what you find is this sort of absolute nothingness. So, and it's like as all of its reflections and permutations and perambulations and all of the things that it has created are reflections of it. As you get closer to the center, I think the essential truths are going to kind of intensify or concentrate. And so the all is nothing. And so that's what I think I erased it, but I had written that, by the way, there is no God or something like that. But that's what I mean by that. But the order and the symmetry that manifests even in our experience, I mean, we think of symmetry as something that you see in a face or, in a leaf. But I think that there is temporal or periodicity, symmetry and periodicities, or you guys know how what I'm trying to say here. There's in time. It's very similar to Terence McKenna's idea of novelty. That this experience of synchronicity, for example, is a product of the symmetry that underlies the influence that compels chaos to order. So, what I'm getting at with all that, you guys see that a giant bug just flew by my faces, someone's going to say our faces, is that, when I was a child and I became fascinated with the Warani, it was these Warani down the river from where I am, and I did not come here intentionally. And if that was the single experience of that type that I had in my life, then it would be easier to dismiss. But when this sort of invisible thread, I call it, becomes the rule rather than the exception, it asserts itself as an objective constituent of our reality by the same metric that we use to assess the rest of our objective reality, consensus and consistency. And, so when I say that there is no God, it's like a tongue-in-cheek, like everything that you say is both true and false, and it is both true and false to say that it is true and false, Okay, so let's get into some more stories from the week that are super trippy. I mean, it's been a good week. I feel like I'm on my way back up. I know I made that one live stream where I was like, goodbye everyone, I'm fucking dying, and that's how I felt basically. It seemed like my channel is dying. Like, I was getting a lot of really negative feedback on top of the fact that, I've been demonetized and all this stuff, and my health is terrible, so I was really just dejected and broken. And when I compare the state of mind that I'm in now to where I was at when I made that live stream, definitely come a long way, even if I'm physically still having some difficulty. Okay, so here's something that is indicative of the progress, and it's also an interesting story. So I went for a walk the other day, and I didn't intend to walk all the way to town. It's really far. It's not, like a casual walk. It's like really far. And because there are only indigenous communities further beyond where our residents, they don't take a lot of taxis. Nobody has any money, so there's really no taxi. It's not like town where you can just flag a taxi and you have a ride. And the bus comes every 2 hours or something, so there's not a lot of buses either. And so I was walking along, and one of the consequences of being so ill for so long is that I had become extremely detached from all aspects of life. I think, uh, it's. I think to some extent a defense mechanism. Are we still? Um, sorry, the computer lagged. I'm never sure if it's just the internet has stopped working completely or. So I become very detached, and I was very much aware of that from my purpose, even from my family and just life in general. I mean, here I am in the Amazon rainforest, and I'm just like completely debilitated, basically. So I'm like on the edge of feeling like I'm experiencing like a culmination of, a lifetime, and this sort of like bucket list dream, but then I'm like totally incapacitated. So the consequence of it basically was that I became very detached, and so I was walking along and feeling much better than I had in a very very long time, and I was looking around at the jungle and at one point as I started to kind of connect those giant blue butterflies, morphos, the really famous, I mean, they like glow when the sun hits them, luminesce, bright, bright blue, and they're like almost as big as dinner plates. Um, a couple of those like mating dance were like flying around my head for a second, and one hit me in the hand, suddenly covered in butterflies, uh, and I'm walking along and I'm realizing how detached I had become, and I started to feel that feeling of connection, that feeling of being part of a giant universal consciousness that I've experienced in the wild and also by the ocean a lot, and particularly on acid on the west coast, like on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. Um, but that feeling of just being like really, really connected to that universal force, and it also occurred to me that that is where my personal capacity to um, influence, experience, and to manifest, and all of these like absurdly improbable circumstances that I have been able to congeal around me with almost, it seems at least, through sheer force of will, which could also be coincidence. But again, when coincidence is like improbable coincidence becomes the norm, um, I just don't know that it's sensible to relegate it to that realm, uh, so at any rate, I'm thinking about all this. I'm feeling super connected to the jungle, and I started to think that, okay, well, I'm getting my mojo and my magic back, and there was a hint of ego in it, and I felt that weird disturbance in the energy, and I quelled it immediately, and I realized that all of the lessons that I've learned, and even the sickness and everything that had happened, was part of a process of humbling. And psychedelic experiences are sort of like a concentrated experience of this sort of like universal mind communicating and influencing. Um, but I think once you open up your consciousness to receive those signals, it's happening all the time. It's your normal reality conforms to a different standard, and I was when I was at the peak, I guess, of kind of like my spiritual power or something, and I still hadn't really learned pride and humility. This Native American man's Navajo guy said to me, what's about to happen? And I was all happy and excited, and he's like, they're going to humble you. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. And he was very serious, and I think you could tell that I totally was just not taking it that seriously. And so, what I'm seeing now is that everything, all of this stuff that is happening, the good and the bad, has it is coming to a sort of point where the lessons have congealed. My purpose is plain. The plan is, I said a couple of weeks ago that for the first time that I can remember, I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing anymore, and that I was lost, and the path wasn't clear anymore. That's such a bunch of bullshit. It's really interesting to watch your own state of mind and see the kind of mental gymnastics that we're capable of. because I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly why I'm doing it, and I know why I'm here. I cannot imagine that it's a coincidence that I just happened to land, um, you know, right in the, how would you say, this is the place where the stories that kept me going through my very rough childhood happened, you know, with the Warani people and all that. And for me to be at this juncture in my life, and for the world to be at the crossroads that it's at, um, you know, it's just all too poignant and serendipitous uh, to just say, okay, well, it's a coincidence. I get why I'm here. I understand why I was reading those books as a child. Um, and, you know, it's really incredible that I am here and that I didn't do it on purpose. And so it's also incredible that as I'm starting to find solutions to my health and my attitude and spiritual disposition is improving, I suddenly just, it's like immediately, like as soon as I'm up and walking, basically, someone says, oh, yeah, well, I know a guy that knows the Warani super well. You know, he claims to be the first person who has made contact with them. And even if that isn't true entirely, he's definitely one of the first. So he has decades you know, decades long relationship, and that's important with the Warani because they are very uh, um, they keep themselves separate from the outside world, and they're trying to change that partly out of necessity. And this is something that I have kind of struggled with. Like, if they are, you know, still in the jungle and living traditionally, does it actually make any sense to, you know, what am I doing? Why am I going there? And part of it is definitely personal for me, to try to return something to these people, to actually meet the descendants of the people that created the stories that inspired the things that saved me in my life. You know, I mean, most of you guys probably know this, but I came from some crazy, dangerous, white trash violence. My mother was insane and incredibly abusive, and you know, it's a miracle that I'm not in prison or dead, and that I have overcome addictions, and I'm even starting to conquer the you know, self-worth and all of the personal, emotional, psychological issues. And I did it all on my own, but that's only sort of true with the help of these psychoactive substances, the principle of which, at the end of the day, is ayahuasca. And I first became aware of ayahuasca because of these people here and the stories that I read that kept me fascinated with the jungle and gave me something positive to focus and to concentrate on. And so now the jungle is threatened, it's endangered. Um, you know, I started to talk about how I'm trying to encourage people to actually come here and go with me because I don't have the money to do this. And I thought, you know, well, rather than just asking you guys for support, which I'm going to do right now, please support us on Patreon, hit the like button, share, subscribe. There's a crypto uh, Binance Smart Chain wallet address you can send BNB or whatever to, and the Zelle and PayPal can be sent to Bloopers. I still have a long way to go with my health. The treatments are expensive. And then, you know, we have to get Nagwal, my son, his Social Security, and pay all this government stuff, and we're not getting the money. Somebody asked me about that a while ago, like, why, you know, you have the American Families Plan. No, we don't. Our son doesn't have a Social Security number. So we're not getting any of that stimulus money from the United States. And, you know, I'm trying to make this stuff happen down here. So support my mission if you can, please. And, or just come down here and come with me. Is what I'm suggesting. And I'm gonna, you know, really try hard to reach out to Dakota Wint and see if maybe this is the kind of thing he does all the time anyways. I mean, maybe he'd be interested in signing up and collaborating. Since I have a personal connection to the Warani people, now that makes it a lot safer. So, and the reason I'm kind of sidetracking here is that there is an unbelievable amount of untouched gold here. And it is possible to, you know, gold pan and run a sluice and do all these things that are not intrusive and are not going to damage the environment. And, you know, I really am focused on money, of getting a lot of it as quickly as possible and through unconventional means, because if we are not well funded, we cannot fight back. I mean, the Chinese, right down the street from where I'm sitting right now, there's this big chunk of jungle that is just gone because the Chinese have come in and they've torn up the ground, and they've taken the gold. But this guy that I met tonight was telling me that they have harvested not the gold not once, but then another smaller company comes in behind the Chinese and they do it again. And now it's on like the second or third or fourth time, and they're still pulling gold out of the ground. So if somebody came down here with a gold lab metal detector, we could go around and get gold really easily out of the rivers without any environmental damage, and actually start to have some impact, because some of the rules of this world are dictated to us and not by us. And one of those is that in order to fight an entity like the Chinese, you have to have money. So that's another angle that I'm trying to see if just maybe mentioning it. It seems like a couple of people dialed out to like, oh, this guy's talking about money, he must be evil kind of vibe. That happens a lot. I got a couple of thumbs down during the last live stream because I noticed that it happened while I was talking about how you can use the knowledge that the Freemasons have kept secret for good. Like, as soon as I just mentioned that you could do something good with this obviously really powerful knowledge, thumbs down. This is another thing that we have to fight somehow. I don't know how. Actually, I do know how. And this is something that we were talking about, Carlos and I today in the interview, is that and this is something that I'm going to start doing, I think, more, or I'm going to stop doing something because of this. I have been kind of confrontational, partly because I've noticed that it seems almost helpless to try to confront people and change their minds and get them to entertain possibilities that are beyond the boundaries of what they're comfortable with, if they're willing to believe. And I'm realizing that it's not only it's a pointless waste of energy, but we can also do the same kind of work and have the same impact by working on the microcosm, our own individual being brought into homeostasis. You are going to have an effect on the consciousness of every other sentient being in the universe every time you elevate your own consciousness. And this is not woo, physics supports it. I'm sure I don't have to explain to you guys about the law of entrainment and entanglement and some of the other mechanistic things that imply that the kind of profound connection of energy that's been described by the Buddha and all of these other mystics and psychedelic minds. Everything is connected and entangled and all that. I mean, I think we're well beyond the point where that anyone is going to contest that. What did I do in the Aya Foundation? I didn't do anything in the Aya Foundation. It was just a Zoom interview, but this guy Carlos, like, normally I wouldn't talk to someone from the ayahuasca industry because I don't particularly like it. When people ask me where there's a retreat, or I just tell them that I don't support commercial ayahuasca, that they should use their intuition and their good judgment, and obviously try to be safe, but just go and let these situations develop organically. Don't go to some yuppie retreat where the shaman is like an accountant from San Francisco last year, and I don't like yuppie ayahuasca. It's just not my thing. And I also think that it's not really wise to drink ayahuasca with 300 other people that you don't know. Traditionally, groups of people would not consume ayahuasca with strangers. That's just not what would happen. But in the case of the Ayahuasca Foundation, I think that he is as legitimate as it gets. If you are looking for, a retreat of that kind where you have amenities and, I think they work with really good Shipibo healers. And just from talking to him, the depth of his knowledge, he really was on the same wavelength as I am, to a surprising degree. And his message was fundamentally the same, that we have a crisis of purpose that can be remedied and resolved to some extent by ayahuasca and other entheogenic experiences, and that the discovery of our true will and our real purpose and bringing our actions into alignment with that is what will ultimately remedy the crisis of purpose. He also thinks that the universe is fundamentally just pure consciousness. So we had a lot of ontological similarities, I guess. And I really feel like he's somebody who's coming from the right place, and he's actually one of the pioneers of the ayahuasca industry. They've been there since 2008. So definitely watch that interview. Um, for myself, I'm planning on going to drink with a Shipibo healer. It'll be the first time that I have worked with a female shaman, which is not a thing in this part of Ecuador. For the most part, they're all men, and I think that's the case in most of the tribes in South America. But Shipibo are an exception, and her name is Mama Celia, and she has a very good reputation, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. But I didn't finish telling you guys what happened after um, after I was walking through the jungle, and I felt suddenly this connection that I've been missing for uh, uh, several years now. I think little flashes of it. And another consequence of that is that of course, my creativity is not what it should be. My capacity to articulate my ideas has been diminished. Uh, um, and I have noticed that since I have reconnected to that to any extent, there has been a torrent of these kind of revelations and ideas. But so I was walking along, and there's no traffic at all. No one's coming, and I'm still not totally well, and I've been walking for a really long time. And I definitely associate my ability to tap into that electromagnetic force that we call consciousness and influence my reality in a way that is conducive to my plans. And so, after I had this experience with connecting to the jungle, and the butterflies came, and the wind blew at just the right moments, and I said, okay, well, if my magic is coming back, then where's my ride? And as soon as the thought passed through my head, a pickup truck just pulled up beside me and stopped. It was just magnificent. And so I got into the back of the truck and rode into town, and I realized that there were no more taxis, and that I wasn't going to be able to get home if I had continued with the rest of my plan and go across the bridge to do work at an internet cafe. And the canoes stopped running. So I'm like, oh no, I'm stranded in town. And I realized that the point of the whole expedition was this experience of connection, and the thing with the pickup truck and all that in the jungle. And so I'm thinking, what am I going to do about this? And so one of the canoe guys happened to be in town late getting groceries, and he walks up just at that moment as I'm realizing that I'm screwed, and he's like, do you want to ride into home? And so that was solved. And then I further realized that I had the laptop with me, and I was about to be in deep trouble because I was going to be stranded in town with a huge storm coming, and the laptop would have been soaked. And so it's what I'm getting at is that this symmetry, which we experience as harmony, that is a property of the consciousness that we're swimming in. When you are aligned, when you're connected with all that, this sort of I don't know if you guys have seen that Mr. Bean movie where he's like looking at this something in a box, and he's walking off of a roof, and then he's not even looking, and then he steps down, and a subway's just pulled up, and then there's like all of these things as he's like walking along, not looking where he's going, just kind of like sliding under his feet to facilitate his safe journeying to his destination. And that is the way that I experience life when I am connected to this. I don't know what to call it, the universal mind, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, so that's where we're at. I'm trying to, encourage anyone that is interested and can help me fund this expedition to come down and travel to spend maybe a week in the jungle with the Warani. Or, if you're into digging up some gold and have a metal detector, we have 2 spare rooms that are just sitting there empty on 15 hectares on a cacao farm on the river in the Amazon. And it's looking like we have the opportunity, well, we definitely have the opportunity to have some like seriously impactful adventures. And I'm not totally clear tonight. I apologize. I've been all over the place, and I just remembered that I never finished talking about why it's important to connect with the Warani right now. And I was talking about how I have this conflict about, you know, if I was able to maneuver myself into a position where I have the capacity to bring some awareness to their situation, is it really even a good idea to bring civilization to these people, or to bring them to civilization? And I think that the reality is that our impact on their environment is sufficient at this point, at this juncture, that they're not really able to live comfortably the way that they traditionally have. There are less fish in the river, and there are other impacts. Also, I think that in order to defend against the Chinese miners, what is needed is money, and that's again why I'm trying to. One of my plans ultimately is to try to go down to Coca and try to talk to the Swar Federation and convince them that the thing to do to stop the Chinese is to get the gold themselves. And then not only do the Chinese have less incentive to come into the land, they have the ability to fight back, to hire lawyers, to purchase property. Um, so I guess that's my update. If you guys have been watching for a while, you know that I had this connection with the Schwar guy, and it fell through, and then we ended up here randomly and all that, and I felt like I didn't know what the hell was going on, and my health was falling apart. But now it all does make sense, because for me the story began with Warani, right down the river from Misawai, Porto Orco, where I'm living, and so I've gone full circle. I'm there with the people, and my intent was to try to give something back to the people that saved me, albeit indirectly. And it's just absolutely incredible that just by pure chance, you know, at least by appearances, I've just ended up right there, of all places, and with all possible people. So that's where we're at, and I'll keep you guys posted. The interview with Carlos should be up within the next couple of days. I wanted to play a Grateful Dead song because Jerry Garcia was born on August 1st and he died on August 9th. And usually during the week that we call, Deadheads call them the days between his birth and death. It's also one of the last songs that Grateful Dead performed. I used to always play music, but I'm a little bit on the weak side, and it's probably better for all of us that I refrain tonight. But I want to thank you guys so much for your support. It's really inspired me that such a relatively small group of people have contributed so much support and help, and even money, so to help me to heal and to help to continue this adventure. And it's really made me realize that if I can expand my network, it's very likely that I can have the kind of impact that I want to see. And the world needs it. I mean, there aren't as many people on the ground here in the Amazon fighting to preserve it as there needs to be. There isn't enough money flowing into conservation to sustain it. And amongst those conservationists, and unfortunately even some of the indigenous groups, corruption is like a leak in the boiler room. And so we really need people that are just totally committed and totally trustworthy to take the reins and to make sure that the jungle isn't destroyed. It's definitely happening. And I forgot to mention that this connection that I made today that can facilitate a meeting with the Waorani people, they actually have a cacao farm up the street, and they are producing chocolate in Quito, Ecuador, and the money is being used to protect this reserve down the street, and they need volunteers to help build trails. And so seriously, you guys, before I go, I just want to say one more time that I'm looking for people to share the expenses of this expedition into the jungle. And there are opportunities to drink ayahuasca with several different tribes here, with myself, to volunteer to do work on the reserve to protect the jungle. And while you're here, we can do all sorts of different things. There's the lagoon we can go float around in. I can teach you the lesser bands, the ritual, the pentagram, and other hermetic magic rituals and how to prepare plant medicine or whatever. I need to really form a core group of like-minded people to make some shit happen. So thank you guys so much for watching and supporting, and please do click the like button and support us on Zelle and Patreon, link in the description, the email, and there's the Binance Smart Chain address. And we really do appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you again very, very soon.